Good morning and welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. Today this video is coming to you from the bottom of the bed because last night, or I guess was maybe a little bit longer ago, I had to go into hospital for 24 hours. I seem to have managed to get blood clots on my lungs, so I'm not going anywhere. I'm what is romantically known as bedridden. So I thought, I don't want to fall behind on my videos, so I managed to brush my hair and put on a clean t-shirt, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about books. I'm actually breathing okay because I have not had to do very much exercise for 2 days, so anyhow, it's been pretty... Oh, and of course the phone starts to go. It's probably my daughter, she's worried. Anyhow, I'm talking to you about two different things. I'm so glad I didn't do New Year's resolutions because in the last... I'd say 3 days, just about every resolution that I had hoped to make, had I made them, pretty well went completely tummy up. So I was going to talk about my book club books next week, but one of the book clubs has adjusted its time frame, so that's not going to happen. And today I was supposed to be talking to you about the classic North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. This comes from Pan Macmillan. It's their... collector's edition, which is very pretty, you know, with all the detailing. I only got, as you can see by the bookmark, I only got about halfway, and that's probably about this much was read while I was in hospital waiting for tests and all that kind of business. So that goal didn't happen. I have this list of they're sort of, as my girlfriend calls them, premeditated disappointments, because sometimes a list can lead to expectations. The expectations go awry, especially if they're based on a schedule. So I'm not talking to you about Elizabeth Gaskell today. What I am talking to you about are two middle reader books, The Extremely Inconvenient Adventures of Bronte Mettlestone. I mentioned this briefly in my last video because I was about a little over a third done. And I really enjoyed this book. I'm glad that I finished. I wasn't 100% sure I was going to because I wasn't feeling so well then. And her adventures were inconvenient, but also, well, just kind of a little bit extra. And what happens is Bronte has to go to visit each of her aunts, and she has a total of 11 aunts. And her parents have died by a pirate attack. And she has to go to each aunt with a gift. The gifts are something that has to do with the aunt's experiences with Bronte's parents before Bronte was born. And it's a memory gift. So as she travels along, she's having all kinds of very interesting experiences, and she's learning things, and they don't seem to be very logical, the things that she's learning. She's learning about potions, and she's never done anything with potions before, and she's learning about water sprites, and that's just kind of completely out of what would you say? She lives in a city, so when would she ever bump into oceanic water sprites? So they seem a little bit illogical, and these train of illogical adventures are fun and exciting, but as an adult reader, I was getting a tiny bit impatient, but I think a young reader would not notice some of the incongruities. But the charm turns out to be in the incongruities, because it all comes together in the end, as any good author will do. Emily has met a bunch of people, both adult and children, who will come into the conclusion. Again, like, that's a small moment of incongruity in that we understand why the adults all come together at the end, because there's a memorial party for Bronte's parents, but why the children show up or don't show up, which is part of the adventure. Why is one of the children missing? It is a whole lot of illogical pieces that fit together into a puzzle at the very end, and it's quite marvelous. One or two things towards the end where it's the illogicality of it remains, but I think that a middle reader probably wouldn't catch that. And yeah, I have discovered that if you read something with high expectations when you're not feeling well, you can be, or certainly I can be, a little hypercritical. I think this is a solid book. I would really recommend it for an older middle grader reader because there are so many characters and so many adventures that a younger reader might start to lose track of it. But I think it would make a fun read aloud for a younger reader, because then with whoever they're reading about it, they could capture and review and so forth. So I think this is a really strong book. I would give it about 4.5 out of 5, and yeah, I think the reason I wouldn't give it a 5 is mostly to do with the number of adventures, just perhaps in terms of keeping things clear. Okay, the other book I read is Damsel, and it is by Elana K. Arnold. This was a National Book Award finalist. The cover is really, I forgot all about bleeding hearts, and bleeding hearts are a beautiful flower. I quite love them, but for some reason they went off my radar. This is all, I don't know if you can capture that. It's very glowy kind of a cover, and that is because all the flowers, let me see if I can get that to you. All the flowers and the heart are done in glass. So we do get to see the glowingness, and that's totally appropriate because this is essentially a dragon story. Emery is the prince, and in order to inherit his kingdom, once his father has died, he has to kill a dragon, rescue a damsel. The damsel that he rescues will be his future wife. And this is a tradition that goes back generations. And so basically no king has not killed a dragon and not found his damsel. So he must conclude this in order to reach his destiny. He finds a damsel, and the damsel has no prior memories of her life beyond being this moment of rescue when she regains consciousness. And he even names the damsel, and so we have damsel Ama. And she's a little more determined to retrieve her memories than previous queens, because she does become the queen if she marries the prince. She will either embrace not having any kind of memories and go forward as the producer of the next heir in some kind of happy way, or she just is never going to kind of move on with the program and she will decline. And as far as all the kings have gone in the past, that's okay. When she's given birth to the male heir, which is basically her only function, it's kind of irrelevant what happens to the queen. So that's the backstory. We do encounter that as we go through the story. But for Ama, she's not willing to just accept that nothing happened and that she's at the complete control of Emery. And Emery is one of those kind of bullies who does it through charm and, well, what would you say? Like, he always has the flowers and the chocolates, more or less, at the right moment. And actually, I should back up a little bit and say, I don't think this is a middle reader. I think this is a YA. And yeah, they do have it under YA fantasy. But because it's a dragon, I got a little excited there and thought that everybody could read it. But no, this is more of a psychological drama as Ama and Emery are figuring out their relationship. It's very clear that Emery prefers a damsel in distress. And Ama really isn't a damsel in distress, so she's trying to navigate this whole world where she has no knowledge of court etiquette or getting into fine dresses or anything really. Somewhere along the way, she discovers glass blowing, which is, again, a reference. The cover references her adventures, and through learning how to blow glass, she starts to come not so much to memory as her true self, because she's inherently an artist, and an artist who really is passionate about color and how they lay up against each other. And so had she reached her goal as an artist, she probably would have been an amazing stained glass artist, but that's not her destiny, because her destiny is queen and birth. So there's not a lot of empathy for her discovery of blowing glass by anyone. Now, at this point in the story, there is still the queen from the preceding king. She's still alive. And so she's feeding Ama the information that she feels is necessary for her to be successful. But what we see, again, is more psychological game playing. This novel was a little bit hard to track just because it was almost all mind issues, mind games, discovery of self, discovery of other, discovering just what exists in the world, nature. There is a significant wild large cat that plays a role. And so it's quite an interesting book in terms of all these discoveries. There's not a ton of dragon adventure. There's a really amazing dragon fight sort of right in the beginning. And without giving it away, there are dragons do definitely feature into the story. But again, more as psychological beings than actual physical dragons. So I think this is a really strong book. As I was reading it, I wasn't 100% on board. I think I wanted a little bit more of the dragonness to be... I wasn't really sure where we were going. But because there were so many references to dragons, I had this expectation that one would appear, and that didn't happen. That would be a spoiler. You're going to have to read it to find out for yourself. So these are the two books that I have read in the last 10 days or so, along with North and South. And I'm going to have to take my January plan little writing list and throw it out the window. I have no idea what I'm going to bring to you next week, but that's all part of the excitement. I hope you're reading dreams and adventures to continue to come true. And the next time I speak to you, I should be back to the bottom of the stairs. All right. Bye-bye.